Podcast City Network.
Listener discretion is advised.
You're listening to The Everett Lee Show. A shot of entertainment to the head. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the entertainment.
What is happening, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the Everett Lee Show podcast. I'm Everett Lee. Quick shout out to everyone that follows me on Twitter. You can follow me at the Everett_Lee, Facebook.com/EverettLee. Click that thumbs up. And, of course, Podcast City Network, the official host of the Everett Lee Show. I hope everyone's having one hell of a night. Everett Lee's just a little bit underneath the weather. My allergies and sinuses have been bugging me ever since yesterday evening, but tonight, I'm not going to let that slow me down because we have a great podcast tonight, and that's all brought to you by Podcast City Network. Head over to Podcast City Net for the latest podcasts such as the Everett Lee Show and many, many more shows brought to you by PodcastCity.net. Hit them up on Facebook, Podcast City Network, and on Twitter at Podcast City Net. Well, let's get into it. I have on the phone right now my guest. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome to the podcast tonight. He wrestles for New Ohio Wrestling and many promotions, which we'll get into tonight. I want to welcome to the program tonight, Paragon, Chris James. How you doing tonight?
I'm well. Thank you for having me.
No problem. We talked and chatted a little bit there right before we went live, talking about wrestling and what we've been doing these past weeks, and what we'll get into here later on about what busy schedule you have, because when you told me, I was like, damn, man. I thought I was busy running a network and doing podcast and everything, but man, I'm excited to hear what you got in store for later on once we get to that. But I want to first off and ask you, where did you grow up at?
Well, your boy Paragon grew up in New Metropolis, Cleveland, Ohio. That's what I love to call my city, because literally it is like a superhero world there. You got the bad guys, the good guys, and then you have larger-than-life people like myself. But though I was born in Cleveland, I was raised back and forth between, if you're familiar, Cuyahoga and Lorain County. So I was in Cleveland, Euclid, East Cleveland, Cleveland Heights, but then I also spent a lot of time in Oberlin, Ohio, and Lorain, Ohio. So pretty much you could say that area is my home. That's my paradise right there. But I did spend some time in the Columbus area, to do some studies, before I went off to college. So right. I kind of a grifter. I don't stay anywhere too long unless I feel comfortable there.
Right. I actually lived in Ohio at one point. I spent about 5 years in Cambridge, Ohio. That's about an hour east of Columbus and 2 hours south of Cleveland. It's like right smack in the middle where Interstate 77 and 70 is there in Ohio. I graduated high school there and spent about 5 years there. Really, really great. And I loved going to Columbus, especially Cleveland. I actually spent some time in Cleveland like years ago with my mom and my stepdad, and I went up there for the summer up in Cleveland. I think it was around Brook Park. I lived up there for a while.
Oh yeah,
yeah. If you're familiar with Brook Park.
Oh yeah, Cleveland is I love Brook Park. I mean, literally, Cleveland. Yeah, to me, it's one of the most underrated big cities there is. A lot of people think they know what Cleveland is. They have an image of it. And I always tell people, when was the last time you were there? And when's the last time you were there without having somebody tell you about the city that wasn't from there? I mean, it's a beautiful place, especially if you're on the right side of the town. Like any city, it has its rough parts. But I would challenge anyone, and I don't care if there's a New Yorker listening to this, Cleveland has the best corned beef sandwich and corned beef and pastrami sandwich you will ever get in your life. Okay? So you can fight me on that.
That is awesome. That is. What were some of your early influences in wrestling when you got into wrestling?
Oh, I mean, hands down, like there are many wrestlers who I can say their style has influenced my in-ring, or some of their approaches towards wrestling have influenced me. And there are two men that if it weren't for them, I would not be wrestling today. You and I wouldn't even be having this conversation if it weren't for these two men, and that is The Rock and Eddie Guerrero. The Rock is the person that made me fall in love with wrestling, but Eddie Guerrero is the person who made me want to become a wrestler.
Eddie
So if
Guerrero.
it weren't for those two men, we probably would be having this conversation.
Two great wrestlers right there, Eddie Guerrero and The Rock. Eddie Guerrero's wrestling skills, what he did in the ring, was fantastic, and of course one of the best promos on the mic, and a great in-ring talent, The Rock. That right there is a great combination right there. That is, I like that. I definitely do like that. Well, what were some of your memorable moments watching Eddie Guerrero and The Rock? What were your favorite things that they did?
Well, I'll share a little tad bit with you. My first memory, like I don't mean like my first memory in general, is my uncle sitting me down in front of Monday Night Raw. And he said, you see this kid right here, his name is Rocky Maivia. You just wait one day, he's going to be a star. And then a few months went by, and Rocky Maivia came back as The Rock. So seeing that evolution from, this vibrant, chipper babyface, this guy who, just wants to, take on the world and wants to high five, and then he turns into this dude who has a chip on his shoulder the size of a boulder, which maybe that's why he became The Rock. Just seeing somebody, who literally was like, I'm tired of playing the game. I'm deciding to change the rules. But then you get someone like Eddie, and I'll say it again. The moment I decided I wanted to become a wrestler was No Way Out. When Eddie Guerrero beat Brock Lesnar. See, me,
Yes.
I've never been the biggest guy in a fight, but I've always been the person, if you count them out, you've already lost. I did mixed martial arts before I did professional wrestling. And the thing was, I always had to face somebody that was bigger and stronger than me. But the thing was, I never lost because, one, I had the heart. And then, two, I always allowed you to make an assumption about me before, whatever we had going on was going to happen. Because once you count me out, once you overlook me, once you look past me, you've already defeated yourself. And so seeing someone like Eddie Guerrero, who wasn't the biggest guy in the fight, he wasn't the fastest guy in the fight, he wasn't the strongest, but the thing was, he had intelligence, he had will, and he had unparalleled skill. And seeing him go toe-to-toe, who at the time was considered an unstoppable force, someone who was bigger, who was stronger, who was believed to be faster, and all these things, and he beat him. And me, being a person of color, being able to see someone else of color, hold up that title, defeating the odds, and pretty much saying like, hey, I can do this, and so can you. I mean, he inspired something in me. That's when I said, you know what, there's nothing I can't do. And I always told people, I'm going to be a wrestler. There's no question about it. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And literally, I honestly say my career is a tribute to that man himself, because the day he passed away was the day I promised. I looked up in the heavens, because I know that's where that dude is. He's probably taking, somebody's stuff up there, because, he lies, cheats, and steals. But I looked up in the heavens, and I said, hey, man, like, I promise you, I will be a wrestler one day.
Yes.
So literally those two moments, those are probably the most pivotal, not even just in my career, but in my life, if I'm being honest.
Right. Yeah, The Rock, man. I mean, when he was rocking Maivia, and then when he basically told the fans to go stick it, and he became The Rock, and he was with the Nation, and he cut some damn good promos, man. He'd telling Triple H he looks like Tarzan, but he wrestles like Jane, and just the chemistry like that stuff right there. And then Die Rocky Die, all you people are just trash, and just how he did that, and then he became a big star and people loved him. And then Eddie Guerrero, I remember that. I actually had the DVD of No Way Out where he won the WWE Championship, and that was great. That was such a great pay-per-view, great matches on there, especially when he beat Brock Lesnar and he won the WWE Championship. And he went on to WrestleMania when he had his match with Kurt Angle, and how when he had his boot, and he took his boot off That was great.
Yeah.
And he put him in the ankle lock, and he rolled out, and then he beat Kurt Angle and retained the championship, which was great. And too great, man. I mean, Eddie was such a great high flyer, and The Rock was so charismatic on the mic. I mean, you couldn't go wrong with that, man. You could not go wrong with that. Now, with both of them being inspiration and influences, what made you and who you are today, when you got into wrestling, how was it like training at the House of Truth?
Man, like I could tell you about that school like for hours and hours. I love that place. That place, it's like home.
Yeah.
If you ever get a chance to be in an environment surrounded by House of Truth guys and seeing how they interact, it's not like you're watching people who know each other, people who are even friends. You know, this is a family. Like literally, there's somebody who you could have never met before, who trained at the House of Truth 6-10 years before you did, and literally the first time you guys meet, you're instantly brothers because, like we tell each other, we are House of Truth. We look out for each other. If I can help you out, if I can open the door for you, we'll do it. You know, if you need a place to stay or someone to ride with, I'll do it. You know, because that's literally just the brotherhood and bond that we have. And I love it because there is many different ways to skin a cat. But I always like to say personally, I feel like I was trained the right way because they gave me tools and they offered up me the tools to have a phenomenal rookie year, if I do say so myself. You know, I've got to train and travel, and I got to even have a tryout or two with some pretty prestigious places. And it wasn't because of the name of my school. It was because of the tools that my school provided me. Right. You know, the name may have opened the door, but it was up to me to keep it in, keep it open, and make sure I secured my spot. And so that's something I will always be thankful to them for. You know, Truth Martini is one of the most brilliant minds of professional wrestling. And for anyone who is unsure of who that person is or what that name is, you need to educate yourself immediately. Okay, Truth Martini is literally the truth, and that is pun intended. But I will say this, though. There were intense days. Like, there were days, you know, if we weren't hitting ropes correctly or if our feet were too loud, maybe we had to run on concrete, you know, and certain drills that we had to do that, you know, some of us still feel to this day. Yeah. But for real, it's stuff like that, though, that also builds that brotherhood in you. You know, literally, there isn't a single House of Truth guy, even if I would say we aren't on the best of terms, that I still would not call my brother. And I still would not say, you know what, you may not like me, I may not like you, but we are House of Truth, so I got your back. You know, so that's literally, like I said, I can't say enough about it. It's a great place. It's a great camp. Anyone who ever in life has thought about wanting to become a professional wrestler who hasn't trained and is still unsure, I'm telling you, I put my word in the House of Truth. You want to be a wrestler, you want to do it the right way, you want to get your foot in the door, House of Truth is where you want to be.
Nice. That's awesome. That is. It sounds like you took a lot from there and took it with you, and you apply it to this day, which is great, which is really great. And going out and wrestling, what promotions have you worked for since then?
All right. So I've actually had a night full of handfuls. So on my birthday weekend, I want to get this out the way because I'm proud of this one. On my birthday weekend, only 6 months into the business, I actually had a tryout for ROH, so that was pretty nice.
Nice.
Got to share the ring with a lot of great people, a lot of great brothers and sisters in wrestling. And I got to learn a lot about myself, about my strengths, about my weaknesses, and about really how bad I wanted it because, you know, that was a drive. It was the Baltimore opening. So I went all the way to Baltimore to, you know, kind of show people how bad I wanted this.
Right.
And then I've worked for companies such as DSW in Detroit, Horror Slam out there in Michigan, Wrestling Over Everything in Illinois. I've done a match at IWA Mid-South, but I plan on coming back very, very soon. This weekend, I'll be at WCWO before the Arnold Classic tournament. WCWO is in Indianapolis, Indiana. And there's a place recently that's kind of rolled out the red carpet for me between, you know, the management and the fans making me feel like a star. I got to give a shout out to New Era Wrestling because literally they they made me feel more than welcome. And those fans, man, you want to hear some great fans. Do Era Wrestling have some great fans. But my two home-based promotions are New Ohio Wrestling, which is based out of Grove City,
Right.
Ohio, and then Infinite Pro Wrestling. Infinite Pro Wrestling actually is based in Delaware, the state of Delaware. But they travel all over the East Coast. They're based out of Delaware. They actually have a show in Ohio next week. And that's a great camp, great group of people. Literally, them and New Ohio Wrestling, I call them my home promotions, not just because I wrestle there often, but because literally when someone makes you feel at home, when you wake up in the morning and you're excited for work, that's not work at that point. And literally, when it's New Ohio Wrestling Day or if it's Infinite Pro Wrestling Day, I'm excited for work.
That's great, man. That's great. That is great. Now, being in these promotions and wrestling in different promotions going across the country, like you mentioned, what was your first match like, and which promotion was that?
I'm gonna be honest with you. This was an interesting time.
Okay.
So my very first match was December 16th, 2017. So just over a year ago. I know it sounds like 2 years to 17 and 19, but no, it's just over a year ago. And I was working for a company in Ohio called IWA.
Right.
Not the IWA Mid-South, but it's the famous one that's in Indiana. No, it's the IWA Ohio.
Yeah.
And before the purple and the paisley and the golds and the bodysuits and all the shiny stuff people see now, Paragon had a buzz cut. Sometimes it was cue ball. I was rocking a black singlet. I was rocking wrist tape that went up to my forearm and the Devon Dudley finger tape. Yeah, it was a rough time. And my first match was against a guy by the name of Psycho, who he wore this interesting-looking E-Lucha mask with, I think, like a morph suit underneath it. So it was an interesting first showing, especially for my first match.
Right.
But, in my first match, I impressed them enough that they were like, oh, you want to put you in storylines. We already want to do this with you. We want to do this with you. We're going to shoot you to the moon. So I was like, all right, that lets me know I'm doing something. I'm going the right direction.
Right.
And my first match out of state, though, was for a company, who I just finished up my last show with them. They're called NGW out in Indiana. And literally my first show out of Indiana, it was probably my third match ever. I'm on the card with Congo Kong. Literally, at that point, I was used to wrestling in front of like 35 to like 70 people.
Right.
So I'm like, oh, man, this is what wrestling's like. Get on the show with Congo Kong, and there's like almost 300 people in the audience.
Oh, man.
Just loud and looking at me. And this is my third match ever.
Oh, wow.
Which it's great being in the locker room with Congo Kong because he threatens to punch you and then give you a hug afterwards. So you're like, okay, cool. But yeah, it was an amazing experience. Like I said, my third match ever, and I'm wrestling in front of literally a sea of people. At the time, it was a big deal to me. Just all these people looking at me, but I couldn't fold under the pressure,
Right.
I had to show up, rise to the occasion, and show people exactly why there's a million of you and only one Paragon. And, as you see, I've been having a pretty daggone year, so.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. That is. You had that anxiety and the butterflies, and you just went out there and you just did it. You did what you do best, and that's great that you did that. And you, I don't know what else to say, but that rocks, man. That rocks. That is awesome. That is. Who would you like to get in the ring with that you haven't yet? That you haven't gotten to wrestle yet? Who would you like to get in the ring with?
All right. Well, somebody I haven't had the chance of sharing a ring with. Honestly, there's a good number of people. There's a man by the name of Kevin Calloway He's up in Michigan. He's actually the class before me at House of Truth. He runs a stable called The Purge. And he and I have kind of always had this, I like to say, games of one-upsmanship.
Right.
We always want to be better than the other one. It's a mutual respect thing. But he's somebody I would love to share that ring with. He and I haven't had the opportunity, but I would love to dance with him a time or two. There's also a guy by the name of Dalton Moss. You probably know him if you spend any time in KZW. He's part of a tag team called the Smooth Criminals.
Yeah.
He and his tag partner and I have danced a time or two. But me and Dalton, we've yet to have it. And with us both having, those amateur and MMA backgrounds, we've been waiting for the opportunity for he and I to go at it. But there's always something that happens and comes up. There's a bunch of guys I love to share the ring with, especially guys I've shared the road with or shared locker rooms with. So like Sugar Dunkerton is somebody I would love to stand toe-to-toe with in the ring. I would love to share the ring with Michael Elgin. I've got to ride with him in the car, and he's one of the best dudes in this business I've met. And honestly, my mentor is his name is Franco Varga, and he travels a lot. Like, he just finished a UK tour. Like, this guy's incredible in the ring. He's got to face some of the who's who in wrestling, and he's somebody that I feel like if I can keep up with him in the ring, that not only lets me know how far I've come, but it lets me know where I'm going. So he's another person I love to share the ring with. I've got to share the ring with a lot of people, in a short amount of time. And there's a huge list of people. I can't say everybody because I don't think we've got that much time on the show. But those would probably be, the top people that I have my eye on. It's not that they're more important than other ones. It's just a matter of there's somebody that I want to stand across that ring from, and prove something of myself, see what I can truly do.
Nice. I like that. Now, let's say big promotions. We'll say like ROH, New Japan, NXT, WWE. Who would you, out of those promotions, who would you like to get in the ring with as well?
Oh, out of those promotions?
Yeah.
Oh, well, out of ROH, Jay Lethal. Jay Lethal is literally one of my biggest influences in modern day wrestling. He's somebody who literally, I looked at this man, I'm like, this dude trying to feel like a pillar. And granted, my trainer got to work with him, so that was another reason why I was like, okay, yeah, this is somebody that I want to dance with a time or two. So Jay Lethal is somebody, if we're talking ROH. And also Shane Taylor, because you know what, us Cleveland boys, we got that certain fight in us, and I know he a big boy, but you know what, I done knocked down some big boys before, but I would love to stand toe to toe with him. Yeah. When we're talking WWE side, I would love to stand across the ring from Pete Dunne. He and I have a very similar style, which I call punishment. I like to joint manipulate. I like to suplex. I like to strike. So I feel like he and I would have some fun. Honestly, it'd have to be me and Velveteen Dream. He and I both got this Prince thing going. Yeah. It just would have to happen. It's something that's just going to have to happen one of these days. Honestly, my goal is WWE just so I can face him. I can leave after that. I don't need nothing else with me and Velveteen Dream.
Right.
but yeah, there's a huge list of people. I mean, I could throw out, the Ricochet, because I feel like our styles might work well together. I could throw out the Roman Reigns just because, his power and his story. And granted, I'm a day one. I'm not a bandwagon fan like some of these people. I'm glad you're on the bandwagon, but just remember, you're in the back seat, not in front. But I would love to, I would love to, to stay in the ring with him. There are a bunch of people across the board, that I would love to stand toe to toe with, like a Jeff Cobb or a Phoenix. I would really love to face Pentagon, Saddle Metal.
Yes.
But when it comes down to it, there's only one match I'm ever going to want to have, and I'm never going to get it, and that's me and Eddie Guerrero.
Yeah.
That's literally like, out of all the matches, whether it's indies, whether it's I get signed to a major company, I scratch that, when I get signed to a major company.
Right.
But literally, there's this one match that's going to literally be in my heart every single night I'm standing in the ring with anybody else. Thank you for sharing this ring with me, but if it could have been Eddie Guerrero, I could die happy.
I like that. You mentioned Jay Lethal. I've seen Jay Lethal. I finally got to see Jay Lethal back about 3-4 years ago. It was in Actually, it was 2017. It was November 2017. I live in Daytona Beach, and the furthest south I ever went in Florida was Fort Lauderdale for an ROH event, and I got to see Jay Lethal wrestle live finally after watching him on ROH TV all these years, and it was just fantastic. I loved it. Then later on that year, or actually last year in June in Daytona, Game Changer, I think it was Kenny Omega, New Japan Wrestling, and CEO Gaming did a joint gaming wrestling event where at the Ocean Center here. Right on one side, you had video games. They had tournaments and anyone that was in video games. Right across from there, later that night, they had New Japan Wrestling. They had New Japan wrestlers and ROH wrestlers there. And Jeff Cobb, I was sitting next to a guy who was there. He came in from Coco. He was on vacation. And he said to me, when they announced Jeff Cobb, and he's like, "Who's this guy?" I go, look up Pro Wrestling Guerrilla. Look at that over there in California. And I said, what you see here, this guy is he's great. He's awesome. He reminds me of Kurt Angle. And when Jeff Cobb went to ROH, I was so happy about that because that's such a great talent there. And he's someone that would be interested in getting a ring with. And of course, Velveteen Dream, man. At first, I did not care about Velveteen Dream, but as the more I watched,
he made you care.
Yeah, he made you. He did. The more I watched him, the more I seen what he did in the ring. It's like, I don't know how I would actually say this, but he got better and better and better, and he got to the point where when you turn on NXT, you want to see Velveteen Dream, what he was going to do. And that's what I love about him, man. He gets out there and he makes you care and he makes you notice him. And just great, fantastic talent right there. And yeah, Eddie Guerrero, I mean, there's a lot of people who would have loved to get in the ring with Eddie Guerrero that will never get in the ring. And those who did get in the ring with him, that was such an honor. It's just a privilege, just to... Yeah, to be in this presence, and that would be, it would be awesome if he was still alive today, man. It would be, because look at the matches.
I feel like wrestling would be so different. I feel like wrestling would be such in a different area.
Yeah, it definitely would.
But granted, I can't complain because I'm in the current era of wrestling, so I can't be like, oh, wrestling would be so much different and so much better. Because then what am I doing here? But right. I do feel like it'd be a different wrestling world if he was still here. And like speaking of what you're talking about, Velveteen Dream, how he just kept progressing. I mean, I was once told by I like to call him a wrestling legend, because to me he's a wrestling legend. I was once told, go out there and be undeniable.
Right.
And literally, I feel like that is what Velveteen Dream goes out there and he does, and that's what he shows. Every single time he goes out there, he shows he's undeniable. Whatever preconceived notions about him that you thought you had, by the end of the match, you don't have him no more. Because he's always showing you something else and something different. He's always breaking that mold that he set and he created, And that's the best part. That's honestly how every wrestler should be. You should constantly be trying to evolve and better yourself. If not, then you're complacent, you're getting lazy. You have to keep pushing yourself to be the best, because that's going to get you, in the places you want to be. That's what's going to get you on the top of the card, especially as a young guy in the business. You're not going to be a young guy expecting to, get a shot if you're not trying to better yourself, to improve yourself. If you're going somewhere with any form of entitlement or any form of this is who I am and take it or leave it, everybody's going to leave it. And then also I got to make a comment about the Jeff Cobb thing, because you said, he reminds you of Kurt Angle. He reminds me of Kurt Angle in Brock Lesnar's body.
Yeah, he does. He does.
Like the boy can go, but man, is he a massive boy who can go? If I had his muscle.
I know. He is massive, man, because he can move, and what he did in the ring is just great. And actually getting to see him live instead of watching him on the Battle Los Angeles Blu-rays that my nephew had, seeing him live was just fantastic. And when I heard when he decided to sign with ROH, I said to myself, I said they got someone right there, because I mean he's just fantastic. He's just great, man. He is just great talent. There's so many great talents out there, and it'd be neat to see you mixing up, one day with who you mentioned. It'd be awesome, and especially one day you will get to WWE. Everyone gets to WWE. They do. I mean, look at AJ Styles, Daniel Bryan, Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, Samoa Joe. The list goes on, and you'll get there, man. You will get there, because you got drive and determination. And when I was talking to you before we went on live tonight, and you got that, and that's what's going to keep you going. That is definitely going to keep you going.
Thank you. I really do appreciate that. It honestly means a lot.
You're welcome. Now, you talked about the Arnold Classic. Tell me more about your involvement in this year's Arnold Classic with New Ohio Wrestling. What's your involvement there, and what should people expect?
Well, first, I can't tell you about this year's until I told you about last year's.
Okay.
So last year's Arnold Classic, that was actually when I made my debut for New Ohio Wrestling.
Uh-huh.
And at that point in time, I only had a few matches under my belt. Like the Arnold Classic was probably I had 8 matches that entire weekend. That was probably matches 6 through 14, but I showed that dedication, that heart, and that drive to keep pushing myself and bettering myself, and I got lucky enough to stand out. I got to go 7-1 in last year's tournament. I don't plan on going 7-1 this year, though. I plan on winning the whole thing. I plan on going undefeated. I made a mistake last year. I got cocky. I started to feel myself. I made a mistake of hubris, something I don't like to make often. I stood in that ring with an ever so talented wrestler, and I wound up paying for it because I overlooked him. I made the same mistake people have made against me my entire life and my entire career. But that's not going to be the same thing that's going to happen this year, because I return to the tournament this year. I plan on winning the whole thing, and I plan on showing every last one of my competitors, and I mean this with the utmost respect. As good as they are, as talented as they are, big, bad, strong, fast, agile, maybe even loosely deranged as they may be, there's a million of them, but there's only one Paragon.
Nice.
Nobody's had the year that I've had, Nobody has had the dedication and drive that I've had. And though they may have had good years, my year has been godly. And I plan on walking out not only the Arnold Classic champion, I plan on walking out undefeated and showing every single person that I'm not just Paragon, but we are Paragon. And that includes my doubters, because if it weren't for them pushing me to prove them wrong, I would not be where I'm at either. So we are Paragon, and we are walking away with the New Ohio Wrestling's Arnold Classic Championship.
All right. I'm looking forward to it, man. I am looking forward to seeing you in the ring at this year's Arnold Classic. It's going to be this weekend on March 2nd and 3rd in Columbus, Ohio, right?
Indeed.
Nice. Can't wait to see what happens, and you're going all the way.
Oh, I'm going all the way, and I'm adding some new names to the Broken Pinky Tour.
Nice. Now, after the Arnold Classic, what do you have planned? What more upcoming events do you have for right after the Arnold Classic this year? What else do you have going on?
Well, directly after the Arnold Classic, I plan on going home and bathing in milk and honey, because I'm going to need some rest, relaxation, and recuperation. But the following week, you can catch me probably once again at WCWO in Indianapolis, Indiana. But that Saturday, I will be in Columbus, Ohio for Infinite Pro Wrestling's event. Fractured, we will be having a former WWE wrestler, Carlito. He'll be in attendance. And we also will have the baddest man alive, Aaron Williams. If you haven't seen this guy, in the ring, you are missing out. And that's where you want to be March 9th. There's no better place to be March 9th than Infinite Pro Wrestling in Columbus, Ohio at the Dodge Rec Center. And that night, I also plan on walking out with championship gold. And I'm not playing. I plan on walking out with championship gold. I guarantee, I promise you, from the depths of my soul and my being, I will be walking out with championship gold.
Nice.
And then also you can catch me at Wrestling Theology Fellowship, also known as WTF, in Carmel, Indiana. You can catch me at New Era Wrestling in Shelbyville. You can catch me at New Wave Pro Spencer, which is the sister organization to New Wave Pro. I'll be at Maximum Assault Wrestling in Lorraine. I'll make my debut there. And then some more returns. I'll be returning to Delaware for IPW. I'll be at New Era Wrestling in April, making my debut at World's Finest Wrestling. So that's going to be very exciting. And literally, that's just kind of how my year is going. New debuts, returning home to some places, just continuously showing people what I have to offer, introducing them to the Walking Apocalypse, the Fresh Prince of Magnificence, the apogee of all I see, and then also adding more names, more cities, more dates, and more companies to the Broken Pinky Tour.
Nice. Like what we talked about at the beginning of the program before we went live, and when we did go live, you got a busy schedule there, man. You are busy with the promotions you're going to be at this year in the next few months. I'm looking forward to seeing what pops up on social media with you, with your matches, especially this weekend on March 2nd and 3rd with the Arnold Classic. I'm looking forward to that. And speaking of social media, where can people find you at on social media?
Oh, well, you can follow my fan page, the Walking Apocalypse Paragon, on Facebook. You can add me on Instagram. I have 2 Instagrams. I have _Paragon, and then I also have my motivational page. If you need some motivation and some upliftment, I have Paragon Motivation on Instagram as well. You can have me on Twitter and Snapchat at @Paragon23. And you know what? I'm not a bad guy, so if you feel the need and you feel compelled to add me on Facebook, if you want to be more close and more intimate and feel like, hey, I get to actually know this wrestler, he's my Facebook friend, you can find me at Paragon Chris James on Facebook. Yeah, I'm not a scary guy. You can add me. It's no big deal.
Nice. Wow. I want to thank you for taking time out tonight and coming on here and discussing where you've been at and where you're going with your wrestling career. And I cannot wait to see what else Paragon Chris James brings next.
Well, I want to thank you for having me, man. I really appreciate it. I appreciate the time we got to share, and I love talking to you.
Same here, man. Same here. And I hope everyone viewing and listening has enjoyed this podcast tonight, because it's been a great one talking with Paragon Chris James. Want to thank you and for coming on and discussing with me wrestling, and I had a great time talking with you. And just shout out right now on the chat right here on twitch.tv Podcasting Network, Deathmatch Wrestle Podcast. He's part of the Podcasting Network. Shout out to Everett Lee and Paragon. Nice. But thank you for coming on. And love to get you back on again sometime in the future.
Yeah, I'd love to be back on. Once again, thank you for having me, man.
Oh, you're welcome. And before I wrap this podcast up, I want to give a shout out to the sponsors of Podcast City Network.
The following support and sponsor Podcast City Network. City Limits Tap Room, sports bar in DeLand, Florida, has brew on tap, serve food, the grilled cheese is excellent. For upcoming events, check out City Limits Taproom on Facebook.com/City Limits Taproom. Atlantic Sounds has thousands of new and used vinyl records and CDs. If they don't have it, they can order it for you. Same location since 1982. For more updates on what's new, check out Atlantic Sounds on Facebook.com/Atlantic Sounds Vinyl. Sports Sanity Customs have worked with organizations from custom embroidering polo shirts to jerseys for your kids' baseball team. They do it all. Armed with state-of-the-art equipment and an in-house design team, they are equipped to take on your next project. Visit their website to learn more, sportsanitycustoms.com. Visit Sports Sanity Customs on Facebook.com/SportsSanityCustoms. 3 Count Design offers a wide range of graphic design products, video, photography and other forms of media. Everything from t-shirt designs to websites. Visit Facebook.com/3 Count Design for more. Demo Blast Studios, an explosion of imagination. Original artwork, podcasts, video, apparel and more. Visit demoblaststudios.com. Visit Demoblast Studios on Facebook.com/Demoblast Studios, the best family entertainment pro wrestling show in the state of Kentucky. Kentucky's Own Wrestling brings quality family vintage wrestling to a town near you. Kentucky's Own Wrestling offers a ladies division in wrestling and a training school. Kentucky's Own Wrestling is the current longest running Southern promotion. Visit Facebook.com/Somerset Kentucky's Own Wrestling. All supporters and sponsors are brought to you by Podcast City Network.
You're listening to The Everett Lee Show.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Paragon, man. I want to thank him for coming on tonight and talking and discussing with me about his wrestling career and much, much more on the podcast tonight. And I want to mention this real quick here before I exit out on the podcast. Coming next month, Podcast City Network will bring you Audio Madness Month. That's right. Podcast City Network bring you Audio Madness Month. The maddest episodes from all the shows on Podcast City Network. You can check those out over on podcastcity.net. You can check out the maddest episodes. Each show on the network has selected their maddest episode to be featured for the month of March. So when the page becomes available on podcastcity.net, jump over there and you can listen to one of the maddest episodes from the Everett Lee Show. You can listen to a mad episode from Wrestle Podcast, Deathmatch Wrestle Podcast, the Phoenix Gate Podcast, the Super Radio Brothers, Imaginarium with Scott and Todd, and of course our new show, the Best Friend Show Podcast, and of course Chris Carnage Show and Final Score. You check out the maddest episodes coming next month, starting on March 4th. That will be up on podcastcity.net. And, of course, you can follow more podcasts on podcastcity.net. And, of course, hit them up on Facebook, Podcast City Network, and on Twitter at Podcast City Net. So be sure to check out Audio Madness Month, brought to you by Podcast City Network. And, ladies and gentlemen, all I got to say is that is it for the Everett Lee Show. I want to thank my guest, Paragon, for coming on and talking with me. Had a great time, and that's pretty much it. Everett Lee signing off. Have a good night, and we'll see you again next week for another episode of the Everett Lee Show.